Dolphins.
I'm Larry, and I work at the canoe houses in Colonia. We are from the organization WAGE, and our mission is to work with the young people to hopefully pass on some of the traditional skills that are at risk of being lost. Currently, we have a project with the women and men of Lamotrek Island to weave a traditional voyaging canoe sail from pandanus leaf. Woven into the sail will be a message about climate change, which is starting to hit the community pretty hard. We then plan to voyage from Lamotrek to Guam in 3 canoes and display the sail at FESPAC. By showing people our pandanus sail, hopefully we'll remind the world of the vulnerability of our island homes to the dangers of a changing climate.
The journey for Larry and his crew begins with a boat trip from Yap to Lamotrek Island, where they will pick up the woven sail and join the canoe fleet for its voyage to Guam. In the 5 days it takes them to get there, the island community has been busy getting the canoe fleet ready to sail.
We're home. This is Lamotrek. There's Queen. There will be 3 canoes going to Guam. The largest, more than 28 feet long, is Queen Veronica. Genesis is the smallest of the 3 canoes, just over 21 feet. The Lucky Star, she's about 25 feet long and built by one of my canoe carving teachers, Joe.
About 300 people live on Lamotrek today, and like many of the Pacific Islands, it sits directly in the crosshairs of the world's changing climate. Super typhoons, super high and low tides, wave surges, sea level rise are all threats to the island's ecosystem and unique way of life.
Fari tuwe ya repito. Yung repito ng atsumas. Ili asal fari. Para rulo katsi tat. Na numero fisigura. We la mulito ko ngari kara. Para krigiter siwirilo. Tore ra ko menaka katsi mai. Woro kara nga ngora ko wor. A
big concern is that long before the island may disappear from a rising sea, its ecosystem will lose the ability to provide fresh water and food.
For years now, the Federated States of Micronesia has considered climate change a serious threat to the island nation. It has used international environmental treaties like the Montreal Protocol for the protection of the ozone layer to help in the fight against global warming. Federated States of Micronesia diplomats have proactively lobbied for the accelerated phase-out of ozone and climate system-harming refrigerant chemicals like HCFCs.
It is our survival that we come here at the Montreal Protocol to plead for. And we will not stop. I think we will continue, because what choice do we have?
These heroic efforts of our Foreign Service people will hopefully help to delay the onset of a warming world with its faster rising seas. This will, of course, be an enormous help to the Lamotrek people.
Oh, man, we are fully sa humora ho urukar. Nakabara kiri ni lamuer. We also my room called so we economic paradi now.
One of the first things that Larry and his crew does is check on the progress of the Pandanus sail. It has to be finished in the next 48 hours when the canoe fleet sails for Guam.
They're just going to finish sewing one more part, and then the wording will come up.
So that's another...
That's Xavier, by the way. Xavier has been the one in charge of getting the sail done. Now it takes both women and men to make a traditional sail. The work is almost evenly split. The women harvest the pandanus leaves, dry them, slice them into strips, and weave them into a special type of mat. The men then take these mats and stitch them together with coconut fiber rope to actually make the sail.
But wait a second, making the sail was not that easy. There was a big problem at the start of the project that no one anticipated. After agreeing to do it, the community quickly discovered that the knowledge of how to weave a sail with pandanus leaf wasn't there anymore, or so they thought.
They were
The community realized what a miracle it was they caught Maria almost at the very last moment. Once she taught the weavers what to do, it then took about 50 women almost 2 weeks working full-time to weave the material for the sail.
Next came the climate change message, some expression from the community about what a changing climate meant to them.
In the center we have the word Sail of Lamotrek, and it translates into survival of Lamotrek's glory with a big, huge question mark.
Once everybody agreed on the message, the entire community signed the sail, giving their stamp of approval.
I wanted to just sign on this sail somewhere.
Confident their traditions will survive and resonate with the outside world. The day before the departure for Guam, the canoes are launched into the lagoon.
For the voyagers, there is still much to do to get ready for the journey. Water and food are critical. The 500-mile trip to Guam should take between 4 and 8 days, depending on weather. But the canoes have to carry enough supplies for at least 2 weeks, just in case.
The next morning, the entire island rises early and gathers at the beach for the departure ceremony.
Carvasser Mosuato. Yung super saiti metafora ketekar. Yung involve agri alamat. Ler faru begra ilir ora so sai wa karpura sai metafora ketekar. Na roda masaro. Il bora fonga no roda masle fagor kala torta go. Roda wa le mas de farum na faru. Eu fago chitoya.
The first order of business is for Ali, the captain of the Queen Veronica, to purify himself, and then to be officially empowered as the lead or ghost navigator, responsible for the safety, welfare, and setting the course of the 3-canoe fleet.
dapat what yang yan. Pagawa ati nei, ati ribusum.
Ali then invites all the voyagers to sit in a protection circle to receive their own blessings and empowerment. Ali then walks the circle with a smudging torch, purifying the group. Finally, he cuts the circle, effectively cutting away the fears, doubts, and insecurities the voyagers may have, leaving this baggage, as it were, all behind them on shore. With the completion of the final blessing, the voyagers are ready to begin their journey. The community quickly surrounds them to say their last-minute goodbyes. With one final blowing of the conch, the departure ceremony is done and the journey begins.
So we just left Lamotrek with the rest of the crew on Lucky Star. There's a total of 9 of us. We're heading up to Guam. We hope to be there in 4 or 5 days, weather permits.
With the canoes finally underway, traditional wayfinding, or navigation, now comes into play.
In traditional navigation, our ancestors have basically broken up the sky, if you will, into their own compass, if you like, using the stars. And actually, it does coordinate very well with the modern technology in terms of the actual compass. We use other elements in traditional navigation to find our destination, including sea waves, even fish and birds out in the ocean that have been identified by our ancestors as guidance for us. So whenever we see them, then we can reference where we're heading or our course.
One of the first navigation actions the voyagers do, logically, is set a course.
How do we know where we're going, boys? Terrorifus. So what the terrain are you here? I'm a terrorifus.
350.
The boys are already set on the chart, which is the course of 350, 000 true north. So we're moving a little bit to the west of true north.
Traditionally, over hundreds of years, the Lamotrek to Guam sea lane has been well traveled. It's a straight shot, really. If you stand on the beach in Lamotrek and find Polaris, the North Star, the island of Guam would be about 10 degrees to the west at a 0350 heading. Technically, it's not hard to miss if you sail towards it. The tricky part, however, is the wind and the currents. And it's about 500 miles of open water. After leaving the relative calm of Lamotrek's lagoon, the fleet moves into voyaging position, with Ali and Queen Veronica taking the lead, the Genesis in the middle, and the Lucky Star bringing up the rear. It's been a long and tiring first day, and as the watch settles in for the night, crew members grab space on deck where they can to get some much-needed rest. Day 2 at sea dawns another great sailing day, perfect for the crossing to Guam. Later that afternoon, however, the perfect sailing weather begins to turn. The canoe heads into a storm front, blowing in from the east. As it picks up, the crew reefs in the sail to make it a smaller target against the wind and rain.
As late afternoon turns into night, the weather gets really ugly. The wind and waves surge, the stress on the hull increases, and Lucky Star's seams begin to leak. The crew does its best to patch the hulls and keeps bailing. During the night, Lucky Star is forced to lower her sail.
We were adrift at the mercy of the elements, not knowing whether we could be run over by any passing vessel, because it was complete darkness.
Finally, dawn could not come soon enough for the voyagers. The rain has stopped, but the wind and waves are still high. The conch is blown to signal the other canoes, who also lowered their sails during the night. Eventually, they signal back that they are safe. In morning's light, it's clear the storm has damaged Lucky Star's hull. The crew quickly patches the holes with softwood plugs, and the crew member is permanently assigned to the bilge with a bucket to constantly bail. Soon, good weather returns, and the voyage continues.
This is our 4th day into our journey. We are still estimating that we are somewhere roughly 100 miles or so away from Guam. We expect to maybe start spotting Guam tonight. This has been a great journey so far, but we are still not there. And in our usual traditional practice, when you're not there yet, you still have to expect the worst.
For Larry and the crew, the worst does not happen, but something pretty challenging does. As the Lucky Star approaches the southern tip of Guam, the speed and the direction of the current changes. It switches from an easterly flowing direction to one heading southwest. It feels like the Lucky Star is just flying along towards Guam, but in reality, she's being swept out to sea. Finally, realizing they're getting nowhere, the crew decides to change course to try and break out of the current. But coming about, or tacking with a voyaging canoe, is not an easy task. It's physically demanding and dangerous. It means unstepping the sail frame and moving it to the opposite end of the canoe where the rudder is. The rudder, in turn, is then moved to the sail's former position. So what was the stern now becomes the bow. All day and into the evening, the crew tacks back and forth, again and again, moving the sail and the rudder. Finally, in the early hours of the morning, the wind gives out, depriving Lucky Star of any forward motion. Exhausted, the only thing the voyagers can do is pull down the sail and let the current take them out to sea.
We are waiting for Genesis, and then we together will go into Guam.
About a half hour later, Genesis is spotted, but she's not alone. The Independence,
a Federated States of Micronesia patrol boat has her in tow.
Good, 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 good.
Genesis had called for help. During the storm, she cracked one of the beams supporting her main platform. In the morning, they made repairs as best they could, but she was proving hard to handle in the strong southern current, so her captain called for a tow. The Lucky Star hitches a ride too, and both canoes are soon under tow. 3 hours later, the voyagers are close enough to Guam to receive a police boat escort. Finally, nearing shore, the Independence drops her tow line. The Lucky Star hoists her sail and sails into the harbor to a hero's welcome. The sun isn't up yet, and the entire harbor is alive with preparations for opening day of the festival. Queen Veronica, Genesis, and Lucky Star paddle their way past the gathering crowds who've come to honor the voyagers. Lucky Star is outfitted with the Pandanus sail, and all day yesterday, the crew practiced sailing her with this woven masterpiece.
Though none of the crew has ever worked with the woven sail before, we are pretty confident we know what we're doing. When mounted on the Lucky Star, it's obvious that the sail's weight is significant, maybe 10 times that of a Techron sail. The crew practices tacking, swinging its massive weight about, and it seems like it's nothing they can't handle.
Once outside the harbor, the Lucky Star and the other voyaging canoes wait for the sun to rise and the parade to begin. Suddenly, tragedy strikes a neighboring canoe from Palau. A crew member is rushed to the hospital and dies upon arrival.
The fallen seafarer is a sober reminder of why Lamotrek's departure ceremony is more than just a quaint tradition. Ceremony is a powerful affirmation of the sanctity of life and the sanctity of an island's community in the face of an ever-changing world.
We're landing in Paseo, according to plan.
Federated States of Micronesia, island of Lamotrek. The Lucky Star also being the known Sail of Lamotrek, traveling over 500 miles.
Thank you very much. This is, of course, a very special honor for us here at the university that the seafarers from Lamotrek have allowed us to display the only woven sail.
This is a very special sail, and we found that the art and the skills of weaving pandanus sails had almost ceased. But today I'm very happy that the women of Lamotrek, they worked very hard to make sure that the skills of pandanus sail is carried on. If you look up in the center, we have the word Sail of Lamotrek, and it translates into survival of Lamotrek's glory with a big, huge question mark. And the reason we have it as a question mark is because we're very uncertain where our future is going to be. I think a lot of changes are taking place, but the biggest threat for us is that of climate change and all that it brings along with it.
The Federated States of Micronesia is fighting global warming on a number of fronts. On the international level, it continues to work with other nations through the Montreal Protocol to reduce ozone and climate-harming chemicals. It had a big success recently with the adoption of the Kigali Amendment, where almost 200 countries agreed to phase out HFCs and potentially avoid up to 0.5 degrees centigrade of global warming by the end of the century. On the community front, FSM continues to promote the use of traditional skills and knowledge, like canoe building, sail weaving, and wayfinding navigation.
If there is anything that our ancestors taught us, it is that these technologies might indeed be our lifesavers. I say this because someday, should the need arise to seek to higher lands, these canoes might just be the means for us to get from our low-lying islands to the higher mountains and save our culture.